Welcome to the Founders Forum podcast, brought to you by the Foxwell Founders, where we interview some of the hottest minds in D2C right now and deep dive on their area of expertise. Everyone that we interview here is a cherished member of our Foxwell Founders community of over 550 advertisers worldwide and are at the cutting edge of what is working right now. I hope you enjoy this, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Andrew at Foxwell Digital. And now let's get stuck into this week's episode. Here are Edwin and Tris, our hosts.
Three best ways that we've ever seen to deal with this is
it's one of the things that's working really, really well for our agency right now.
Question of the week, right?
he's going to spill all the tea on TikTok for us. What is the oh wow strategy of the moment? If it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Who buys it even at that time, right? Hey guys, welcome back to the Foxwell Founders Forum. We have got a banger for you today. Today we're talking to Kanika Misra of Better Growth. She has been in the CRO game for 12 plus years. There's something about CRO you need to know, and she doesn't know it. It's not worth knowing. So Kanika, welcome. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge, spilling the tea with us. So
of course,
it's a pleasure to have you in. So listen, Edwin, do you want to kick us off with the first question?
Yeah, I want to know. Let's come in hot. Tell us, what is the bad advice that people are getting?
There is so much bad advice. Do you guys have to be on this podcast? All right, where should we start? The worst advice probably is just the idea that, one, there is a certain conversion rate that you should be aiming for. That is
Thank you, Jesus.
So
Thank you.
variable. It's so hard. Like if somebody says, "Oh, what's your conversion rate?" and then you give them a number, whether you tell them 3 or 7 or even 15, that doesn't say a whole lot. That doesn't mean a whole lot, right? So conversion rate on its own is a pretty difficult metric to really understand the health of your business. More so, just being able to compare one number and say, hey, that's good, hey, that's bad. That's tough. I mean, it's the same thing I'm sure for you guys, right? Like when you're thinking about a cost of acquisition, like if somebody says, hey, my cost of acquisition is $70 and you stop there, that doesn't tell you anything really, right? Yeah. You don't know if their AOV is $70. You don't know if it's $5. You don't know if it's $500. So on its own, doesn't really mean anything.
It's all relative, right? It all makes sense.
So what should we be looking like? What should we be looking for? What does it depend on? And then like, let's do better. Like, tell us how to do better.
Yeah, 100%. I think my favorite answer I've ever heard to this question, when people say, what should my conversion rate be? Is my conversion rate good? Is your conversion rate, a good conversion rate, is one that is constantly getting better, especially as you grow, right? And the question you should be asking yourself shouldn't only be, hey, I have a 1% conversion rate right now. I want to get to a 1.5. I want to get to a 2%. Cool. Yes. Like that's a good direction to go in. You should always be trying to improve it. But is your conversion rate good or bad? Better question, what's happened to it while you've scaled, while you've grown? If that conversion rate is going down, you know what else is going down? Your bottom line, your profitability, your margins. And why should you focus on conversion rate optimization? So you can keep some money in your pocket, right? You're not running a business for charity. At least most of us aren't.
No. Mama wants a new Range Rover. That's what I want.
Maybe 5 of them, right? One in every color.
I could have dreams.
That's it. So, that's what you should pay attention to when you're thinking about what's a good conversion rate, what should I be doing? And then, if you do want a kind of macro picture of things, right? Like, I need some sort of benchmark. I get what you're saying. I understand. I'm going to try to improve my conversion rate. But, like, is it just, like, absolute shit? Am I allowed to say that on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Absolute shit. I just said it too. Don't
Cool.
worry.
Perfect. We can just echo each other now and shit. If you want to know, like, a benchmark and say, okay, like, I get that, but what's realistic? The better way to look at it is not by industry. It's not by, your audience. It's by your AOV. It's by the price of your products, right? Because, people often say, hey, I have a 0.7 conversion rate. I think that sucks. On its own, at face value, that sounds pretty effing awful.
Pretty horrible,
right? But if you're selling things that cost $15,000, that's actually probably a lot better than others out there, right? So we work with a brand that does sell things in that price point, and we've gotten them from a 0.2 up to that 0.7. And for them, that's huge when you're selling things at that value. Now, if you're selling something for $20 and your conversion rate is 0.7,
It's gonna hurt.
that's tough, right?
That's
and
hard.
like, you don't need a CRO expert to tell you that, because like, you're probably not making any money at that point.
Wait, so what should it be? Like, based on your different brackets of AOVs, right? Like, let's break it down. Like, maybe let's say under 50, what should the conversion rate be? Like, what, or like, as best imperfectly as we can. Give us some guidelines.
Yeah, I would say if you're under $50 AOV and you have less than 1%, then you have a lot of opportunity to grow. The problem with giving you a full range is that I've seen conversion rates under 50 be 10 to 15%, and that's very high, right?
Very.
But there's another piece to that puzzle, and that's what scale are you at? So if you're only doing 100 orders a month, then getting to 15% is easier, frankly, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's very difficult to just have one number and say, okay, yeah, I have a $50 AOV and my conversion rate's 3. Is that good? Maybe. It could be, but it also could be shit. So really, you need to keep trying to improve it, especially as you scale.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
if you're under
question
1%,
on that specifically, then, so like as you scale, so like, do you say you're at a 10,000 people a month traffic? Just say we're calling it people rather than actual conversion rate. So are you looking at different metrics at that level versus say 1 million? So just to give you an example, say at a lower level, you're maybe just looking at people come to the site, add to cart, purchase. Maybe at 1 million, you're looking at landing pages, how long they're spending on landing pages, how long they're viewing content, they're adding to cart, purchasing. And like, are you looking at different metrics, or does everyone kind of look at the same thing?
the metrics themselves are generally the same, to be honest with you. The amount of data is what really, really changes, right? So like whether it's a single SKU store that has 10,000 people coming to it, you're still going to look at their purchase path. You're going to look at, where do they come through? What are maybe supplementary pages that they go to that improve conversion rate or help people actually make that decision? You're going to look at time. You're going to look at what they're clicking on, how far they're scrolling, what they're actually doing, add to cart rate, start checkout, completion rate. You're going to look at all of those things for that, single SKU 10,000 person store. You're also going to look at that same information for the 500 SKU 1 million person store.
Gotcha.
But there's more pages to look at. There's more points of information. There's a lot more video recordings and screen grabs and all of that to review. But the process itself, it's simple. Yeah. But the execution is what makes it a lot more complex when there's so many different funnels and things happening.
Crazy.
Yeah, people complicate it all the time. And like, people complicate it insofar as they go, oh, I'm going to move this button from here to there. You see screenshots on Twitter and in groups, and you're like, I moved this button and improved my CRO by 50% and my conversion rate by 15%. And I'm like, did you really? Or is there other stuff going on there? Do you see this? Like, do you see this frequently? Like, it's not as simple as moving a button.
For sure. A lot of times when you see that, it's possible, right? Like moving a button can definitely have outsized impact. Like that is traditional CRO to the core. It's trying to figure out what those simple
Tell
things
the
are.
truth. Have you seen it actually happen? And you not being Amazon?
For like changing a button color and like skyrocketing conversion rate. I have once. It was in SaaS though, and it did make actually a really meaningful difference. It was B2C SaaS, so it's more similar than B2B SaaS. But we did change a button from, I believe it was blue, and we went to green, and we weren't brand. The brand focus wasn't huge at that point, so like no one really gave a shit.
Nobody really cared.
And it did. But we had a really, I can give you one of my secrets. We had a really interesting acquisition strategy there that helped us scale. This is when I was in-house. That helped us just scale like crazy. And whoever listens to this is going to know this now. And it's one of those things that feels so ridiculous that I'd be like, that feels like a waste of money, a waste of traffic. But a very, 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 very simple pre-sell page. So a splash landing page. So I guess, splash page is the SaaS language. I don't really think it's in D2C, but the splash page is basically just like a quick preview, right? So we went from a Facebook ad to a splash page. That splash page was like a qualification page, but we used a lot of psychology and copy to make people feel like they needed to get to that next step, right? We actually said, we had a big stop, like a warning sign, and said, hey, this is only for this type of people. If you proceed, you're acknowledging you're this type of person. Are you sure you want to proceed? People hit that button, then they went to our 7-step. Yeah, right? Yes, I'm one of those. Let me see this stuff. I want this. Hit that button. They go into our 7-step registration process. They convert like freaking crazy.
Okay, so a lot of it's down to psychology, is what you're saying. Is you really kind of, it's not manipulation, it's kind of helping people qualify themselves into the deal, rather. And that's SaaS, but I mean it's the same in DTC, right? It's qualifying.
It's
that's why
sales.
people do quizzes and things like this. It's the very same. It's like, what kind of coat hanger am I? That kind of thing,
Exactly. You're qualifying them. You're making sure that they are the right buyer for what you're offering, and then you're making them want it. And like, if you're not doing that, and if you feel weird about making people want your product, then you're in the wrong game here.
Wrong business.
And so all these CRO checklists that we see floating around, are they garbage? Are they good? Which ones are good?
You know what? I've been thinking about this a lot, and I actually think it just needs to be reframed. Like, I don't think it's a CRO checklist, right? It's not your conversion optimization checklist. This is just like table stakes for having a website. And I think the confusion people are having is like, you need to make your stuff work at a basic level, but like, CRO checklists that are like, definitely you always have to have review stars here, and you have to have this button above the fold, and you have to, have a sticky add to cart. That stuff is the bullshit, right? Like, that stuff works sometimes, it doesn't work other times. So having that as like, oh, we have to do this, or hey, I'm going to charge you $100 to give you just these random ideas. No, that's not what you should use as the foundation of your site. But there are things that are good there, right? Check your site speed. Make sure that there's not something huge just slowing everything down. Make sure that all of your buttons work. Make sure that it's clear that something is a button. Make sure that you're, not having text as images. The text is actually text. So, you have your SEO juice. People can find it. ADA compliance. Like, there's a lot of things like that, those are table stakes. It's not conversion rate optimization, though. It's just getting your website to a decent spot that it works.
Yeah. And do you feel that, in this industry, there's a lot of snake oil in terms of people sell that at CRO? They're like, you getting to the table stakes is like the CRO agency. It's like, it's making sure the web designer, whoever's done your website, is doing a good job.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, CRO is very, 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 very new in D2C especially, right? Like, I entered CRO for D2C only in 2019. And that's 5 years ago now, more than 5 years ago now. And when I first started talking to D2C founders, at scale, 99% of my conversations were, what is CRO? Why do I need a landing page? I already have a website. What does this really do? And, I think it's grown since then, but I wouldn't necessarily say that the knowledge of it has grown in the right way in a lot of ways. People see it now as a quick fix. They also get confused because they see it as a new growth lever, which CRO inherently can never be, right? We are not creating new growth. New growth comes from new traffic, new visitors, new users. We are creating supplementary growth from what you already have. And so I think being able to understand that it's your bottom line here that we're really trying to become more efficient with. That is difficult to grasp for a lot of people. So your original question was, is there a lot of bullshit out there? There is, because it's not a quick fix, and it's also, people are trying to communicate the idea that you're going to suddenly double your business just from CRO. It's more like CRO is going to give you the ability to double your business, but you still have to put in the work to do that.
Mm-hmm. You're still going to be spending, you send the traffic there. You're still going to be getting all of the right type of traffic as well. That's one of the biggest kind of questions that always gets asked, is like, well, is it just send better quality traffic, or is it convert them better? And you know, there's an argument on both sides, but like I'm sure you have that frustration all the time. You're like, well, if you send better quality traffic, if you don't try and get off BuzzFeed, you might actually get somewhere with your sales.
I do, but I don't.
Is good.
Yeah, I do, but I don't. And the reason for that is I started as I was in paid media for many years, right? I'm a performance marketer. I don't approach CRO from a design and development background. I approach it from a performance marketing growth. I was head of growth at a couple of companies in house, right? So I approach it as an acquisition tool. And with that, I get when people say, hey, send better people to the site, but my CTO used to have the same argument with me, and I disagreed. And what I think matters more is making sure that the people that you're getting are interested, right? So if you're advertising something totally different than what you're actually selling, then yeah, that's the wrong traffic, right? Mm-hmm. But and again, I know this is old school because I don't do paid media anymore, but I still believe that it's a very good indicator. If your soft metrics, if your cost per clicks, if your click-through rates, if those things are strong and people are interested in what it means, people are interested in what you're putting out there, people are interested enough to click, and then if your conversion rate is a massive drop-off, then it's not a traffic quality question, right? You have people who are interested. You've generated that demand. You're having an issue actually getting them over that hump, which is purchasing and putting down their credit card. That's not a quality question. If you have like not really that many people interested and you're at a really small scale, then no, you should be focusing on your ads, right? Like CRO is not going to do shit for you.
Yeah.
Wait, can you repeat that one more time? Because I feel like I've had that same conversation like at least 2 times this week. At least 2 times.
Yeah. So if you have strong soft metrics, click-through rate is strong, cost per click is good. That's telling you you have demanded interest from people that you want in a great way. So that part's probably not broken. The quality of your traffic is not the issue. But if your conversion rate after that sucks, it's your site. It's the post-click experience that sucks, getting them over that hump. If instead, your ad metrics, they're not that good, right? Like you're kind of getting by, but they're not awesome. That's where you need to focus. Focus on your campaigns. Focus on your creative. Focus on everything top of funnel.
Yeah,
and then focus.
It's the biggest return, biggest bang for your buck will be up there, and then you can start fixing these issues further down the stream. So, the question specifically on that, I suppose, if I'm, let's call it, we're in a world, in a D2C world, fashion brand, right, an apparel vertical, okay, I'm looking at this going, okay, I need to try. I've got my people are interested in the products. They see these ads. My hold rate, my hook rate is class. People are coming to my site and they're going, nope. What are the couple of things? I mean, it's kind of a generic question, but what are the couple of things that I could do like this week, this month? I mean, we're just starting the new quarter. Like, what are these things we can do now ahead of Black Friday to make sure that we can get our conversion rate into a good place?
Yeah, 100%. One is make sure that there's nothing broken, right? Like that sometimes happens. Check out on every browser, on every device, everything. Have your friends have your family go through it. Click every single link. Right? Like there's things too that your own team, you're on your site 75 times every single day. You're going to miss a lot because your eyes have just now become blind to those things. So have other people outside of your realm go through it and make sure. So that's number one, to get ready for any sale for Black Friday, all of that. Number two, and I say this often, but you can learn so much from just watching people on your site. And I believe that this is a lot more helpful, frankly, than user testing and user surveys. I like those things, don't get me wrong. They're great. They're great directional pieces of feedback. They're learning experiences. But what you're going to get a whole hell of a lot more information from is, what do people do when they get to my homepage? What do they do when they get on my product page? So you install something like Microsoft Clarity, which is totally free. It captures screen recordings, heat maps, click maps, scroll maps, all of that. And then you plug your computer in to your TV this weekend. You let it autoplay for 2 hours. You grab some snacks, you grab a notepad, and you start writing down what you see as patterns of behavior. And then as you see the same thing happening between other people, just tally them. After 2 hours, you're going to have a list of what people are doing on your site. Step 2, you say, okay, why are people doing all of these things? Are they problems? Okay. What could those problems be? Okay, how do we fix these, right? This is the process of using data, qualitative data, to then identify problems, to then create hypotheses, and then create solutions. Then you test those solutions. This is CRO in a nutshell. Do it qualitatively. You can do that quickly.
That's such fire. That's so good. That's so good. I never thought I'd get into a time when I'd be so excited to watch someone on my site more importantly than watching the game of the weekend. I can't wait to do it. I'm just
Depends on the
hook
game.
it up.
Depends on the game. But yeah, you know that. Grab some
Well,
beers.
maybe the
treat
finals.
it
I'll leave the finals
championship.
alone.
Exactly.
Yeah, mid-season game. I'm watching people on my site all day long.
Hell yeah.
And I have to do a big explaining to a few people about why I'm sitting there looking at people on my site. But whatever.
Yeah, they get a little creeped out, but it's cool.
So instead of watching House of Dragons, we are watching on the big screen this weekend. Me and Tris, this is what we are.
Yes. You're going to watch people rage clicking your homepage. They're going to be scrolling up and down your PDPs, being confused as everything, and you're just going to love every second of it.
Nice.
Oh man,
Love that.
So I want to. So going off that, I want like some more actionable advice, right? So let's say you are a fashion and apparel brand. There's I don't feel like there's much to do on a product detail page, right? You got the photos, you got the description. Obviously, you know more. What are the things that you've seen that have moved the needle, that have actually had an effect?
I love this question because it's really fun for fashion and apparel, and we've worked with a lot more fashion and apparel over probably the last 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
And so this isn't going to be a surprising answer, but sizing and playing with your sizing charts, the displays, how it appears on the page, sizing is pretty much the number one blocker or opportunity for CRO. So one is, if you just have that generic chart that everyone has, that's people's eyes glaze over on that too, right? No one wants to get out. Who even has a tape measure, right? Not everyone, for sure. No. So it can be as simple as I do too, but okay, cool.
You're old
Maybe
school, guys. You're old school. Young hip people like myself, we don't have any.
Yeah, I could have guessed that. I didn't think Tris had one, but no one's gonna do that, right? So like it can be as simple as runs true to size. Add that. If you just have the little hyperlink that says size guide, and the only way people know where it skews at all is from clicking on that size guide, or maybe, reading a bunch of reviews, maybe instead be honest with it and say, oh, it runs a little bit large. Oh, it runs a little small, right? That's a very simple thing that you can do. Otherwise, even better is starting to play with the way that that's displayed. So you can add imagery, for example, on those size charts, right? So it's not just numbers. You can even show people, if they do have the measuring tape, how to measure it, right? You can give them more resources to get the right size. But even more fun, things that I've really enjoyed is if you can get different sized, different shaped models wearing that piece of clothing, right? And then you can add like a carousel, for example. And so you can have Tris and Edwin and Joe and, Jack all wearing the same shirt, but, Tris is this height, Edwin is this height, Joe is this height, Jack is this height. They're different weights even, and show them, because people want to. The whole game of e-commerce is making people feel like they're in a store and they're physically buying it and they can touch it and try it and see it and feel it. Apparel's really hard for that. So instead, you want to help people identify, do I look like Edwin? Do I look like Tris? Do I look like Joe? Do I look like Jack? Okay, gotcha. How does this fall on their body? Do I like that look? Should I size up? Should I size down based on them? They basically want to see themselves in that clothing. Yeah. So give them a range of people that they could look like.
That's so good as well, because we see so many people, so many brands getting high returns, because they'll be like, it's 20 inches. It's like, what does that even mean? Nobody knows.
No, exactly.
Especially in a circumference. Like, they're like, what is that? So it's good to have pictures of like, people who look kind of like them. Model is 6'5" is wearing small. We see that go down all the time. It works. And so that works from a conversion rate point of view as well as help with returns.
1,000%. It helps your customer service. There's a lot of these things that, conversion rate at the end of the day is the game of improving your user experience. And if you have a really good user experience, that inherently makes your customer service get better. You have less people complaining and asking questions because you find a way to answer those questions before they even purchase the clothing.
So that sizing thing that you're talking about, like a carousel. So what is that? Is it like I'm showing three different people that are wearing like a small, medium, and large, and saying, okay, cool. Like Edwin is this many pounds, 6 foot tall. He's wearing a size medium, and then Tris is like this tall, this many pounds. He's wearing a size large. Or are you showing two different people wearing the same size? Like what is
that's
it?
what you test, right? And you have to kind of know your audience at that point. Like, is it something that people of all different ranges would really want different sizing, or is it more like athletic apparel where you care more about maybe the length of it because it's so stretchy that it's gonna fit fine? But those are two different things that people are looking for. So the more that you can add in there, the better,
Okay.
right? Like if you can have 15 different photos, it's one of those things that it feels like, oh my God, we're giving people a lot of steps to take. But as you watch your video recordings, you'll see people are taking the time to go through those. And it's the same reason why oftentimes with apparel, it's a very, very, very good idea to have the setting in your testimonials, your reviews, to allow people to add pictures, because people go through those. They want to see, okay, can I find somebody that looks like me, that has similar traits as me, adding a photo so I know what it looks like on them. Just solve it.
Yeah.
Instead of making them go through 85 reviews to get that information, solve it by doing it for them in this carousel.
Nice. I love that. So you talked earlier on about various different kind of splash pages and landing pages and stuff like that. You know, this sounds like a really obvious question, but like I'm a business owner, I'm doing $500,000 a year, and you know I'm doing okay, but I'm doing lots, right? And I know a lot about inventory management, and I'm running my ads, and I've got all this going and ready to go. But I'm I'm not a web developer. I need to pay my web developer hundreds of quid, maybe thousands, to make a difference on the site. Is there an easy way to make make changes to your CRO, or you make your site that will actually help? Maybe not quite the button change, but something else.
100%. It depends on what you're looking for, but even our agency, we rely on other tools just to make things faster and easier and more cost effective, frankly, for our partners. So some of the tools that we like, it depends what you need, but if you're a one-man show, like what you're kind of describing, Tris, and you want to start trying out landing pages to improve your cost of acquisition, just to make things faster, to give more insight into your funnel, Page Deck is a fantastic product for really quick, really fast pages. It integrates directly with Shopify, and it's one of those, I like to describe it as kind of Canva for landing pages.
Oh, nice.
If
Page
you're
Deck.
looking for something, yeah, it's easy, it's simple. You can get things live in 15 minutes or less, right? So if you're a one-man show, one-woman show, and you're just trying to go, and you still want something beautiful, but you don't need fancy bells and whistles and the ability to just do like anything and everything under the sun, Page Deck is where you want to be.
It's where you want to be
If
at.
you are somebody who is super brand focused, or you want to do really different things, or you just really like to have that flexibility, then Replo is where we go for that. If you want more flexibility, if you want to be able to do anything and everything, if you just want the flexibility at the end of the day, then you want to use Replo. Replo is like Figma or Photoshop, whereas Page Deck is more like Canva. So it depends what you want. It depends on your time resources. It just depends on really your preference, but both of them are fantastic tools. The one thing I will say about Replo is if you want to make changes to your site pages, so not only landing pages, not only where people are coming in through ads, then Replo actually allows you to build sections within your site. So if you want to add this carousel, for example, that we just talked about for sizing, you can build that into Replo, and you can add it to your landing pages and your site pages, and it's very simple. You don't need a developer to do something like that, and they have a lot of great sections as well. So it makes things fast.
Nice. And so then, like, if you're doing you kind of outgrown Replo a little bit, when does it become time to have a CRO agency? So I'm doing a bit of this stuff, and I've seen some good results. I've got all the great traffic. I'm making millions. When do I start going and bringing a CRO agency? You talk to getting a certain amount of traffic, and you optimize your top level. But when do I start going, okay, are my benchmarks right? Like, when do I need to make that decision to go to a CRO agency?
Again, it depends on kind of your goals. It depends how quickly you want to get there. It depends on, what type of lift you would need realistically to pay for a CRO agency. But CRO, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but CRO is one of those things that more often than not, it makes sense to use an agency rather than trying to hire in-house. In-house, you need to hire a developer, a designer, a copywriter, a strategist, and sometimes you also need a data analyst separately, right? Sometimes the strategist and the data analyst can be the same person. So that's like a 4 to 5 person full-time headcount, which is even if you outsource that, right? That's expensive. Versus on the CRO side, if you're working with a good CRO agency, you're getting those same people. You're getting a bunch of experts rather than like one person who kind of is a jack of all trades, but that's tough because they don't have that singular subject matter expertise. They also can miss things because it's one person. So with that, when you're working with an agency, you're typically getting all 4 or 5 of those folks for the cost of maybe one full-time or less. At what point does it make sense to hire them? Generally, if you're under $1 million or so, you're better off trying it yourself because you can, right? Like there's a lot of really simple tests that make a big impact. Copy. I talked about it before. I'll say it, it's a hill I'll die on, but copy is the strongest conduit of strategy in my experience. You can not be a great designer, but you can figure out how to communicate really well, really clearly, really effectively with your customers.
And has AI really played into that then? Has that like ChatGPT, people just lashing in their personas and say like, write this copy, or like where's the line there? Because obviously ChatGPT is allowed for more copy, but like good copy, don't know.
It's exactly that. It's allowed for more copy, but good copy is that's a strong word. ChatGPT, all the AI tools, they really help with ideation. Like 100%. If you feel like you have writer's block or you can't think about how else could I say this, ask ChatGPT to make 5 more variations for you. Ask it to make 10 more variations for you. You can even train it to like talk like you and your brand. Just dump in, all the different things that you've said, ad copy, email copy, your site copy. Say, okay, here's the style, here's the voice. Give me 5 variations. But you still have to give them a prompt, right? Here, I need a new headline for my collections page, and I want you to tell them that it also includes a 30-day money-back guarantee and a warranty. Okay.
Like,
great.
what are you trying to? When you say copy, though, like, let's say you're on a fashionable apparel brand, right? And you're selling a shirt, right? Like, let's say this shirt.
Yep.
Like, what is there more to say besides like, oh, it's 100% cotton, it's a camp collar, right? Like, because that sometimes that you walk into a spot and like that's what it is, right? They're like 100% cotton, like camp collar. And
Is that? Let me ask you this then, Edwin. Is that going to make you? If this shirt costs $90. It's
right.
It's not the cheapest. It's not the most expensive. It's you're spending on it. You're considering it.
Yeah.
And you walk in, or you go to the site and it says 100% cotton. I don't remember the other thing you said. Whatever.
Yeah,
Another
whatever.
point. Or you see the same shirt from a different brand and it says something like, feels like a cool breeze on a summer day, sweat wicking, you're never going to have pit stains, and soft to the touch.
Okay.
Which one feels like it's worth $90?
So copy mostly focused on USPs.
It can
right?
be.
Like,
that's just one example, right? It can also be headlines, for example. Like, I think headlines
Right.
are always a really great place to stick in more value. So instead of just saying 100% cotton, organic cotton t-shirt, you can say 100% organic cotton t-shirt, #1 bestseller, our most loved shirt. There's anything else that you have during your research with your customers or what people like, stick that into that headline. That means that they get that right away.
Okay.
USPs in the descriptions, headlines as you bulk out your landing pages and your PDPs, homepage sections. Like, copy is everywhere. And yes, you can just use it for the function of describing something, but why wouldn't you bump it up? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to get somebody from, okay, yes, this serves my function, but you don't want them to see you as a commodity if you want to have a long-term relationship with it or with them.
Yeah. So hot take, website redesigns. Bullshit? No bullshit.
What would be the bullshit?
I don't know. You tell me. Give me the hot take. Should like people because I was on a call this week and they're like, yo, we want to redesign our website, so we want to push off our rollout. I'm gonna put 10K. I have my thoughts. I want to know your thoughts.
Proceed with caution. So, website redesigns.
Diplomatic.
No,
Diplomatic.
yeah, but you have to be, right? Like it's that age old question of like brand versus performance, like which one matters more, and at what stage does it matter more? And like there's a lot of things that you have to consider with that. So website redesigns, more often than not, your performance is going to suck for 2 to 3 months after you do a website.
2 3
redesign.
months.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
okay.
you need to be financially prepared to deal with that if you're going to go through with this website redesign, especially if you have not done CRO to understand which elements are working, what they don't work, and especially if you haven't worked with a good CRO agency who's just like testing random icons that you're not even bringing over, right? Like you need learnings when you're doing CRO, learnings that tell you about your customers and actual user behavior and site elements. A lot of times like CRO is like, oh, we added this thing. Okay, cool. What the hell does that mean for the future? If you don't know that, you're not really learning. So if you haven't taken that process at all, you're extra kind of screwed. But when is it worth it? It's worth it if, one, you can financially take that. Two, it's worth it if you are confident that doing this redesign is setting you up for success 1 to 2 to 3 years down the road, right? Like if you just look like shit and you're never going to be able to charge more than $20 for your product because you just don't have that trust in your customers. And if it just doesn't make you feel good about what you're doing, you're probably going to burn out before the company even reaches 2 to 3 years down the road. If you're confident that this investment is good for your long-term future, you need to think about all of these different things. Then it might be worth it, right? But that's pretty much it. Otherwise, you're way better off taking a slow and steady and very calculated approach. That's another reason I love landing pages, frankly, too, right? Like you can start testing a new vibe. You can start testing new branding on landing pages. You don't have to do your whole site. And if that does pretty well, then you can base parts of that site off those landing page wins.
I want to hear from you just two things, and this is something we haven't said before, so I'm going to start again, right? This is just I'm dying to know. So I'm dying to hear, tell us a horror story and tell us a glory story of like, CRO, so like maybe they've done a change or they've done something, and what's the worst thing that you've seen that could happen when testing all this stuff? Because I mean, people are really like they're cautious. They go into this and they go, it could completely mess up my brand. What's the worst thing you've seen? You've been doing this for 12 years, so you must have seen something.
No, this is super top of mind, actually, based on Edwin's last question. So again, when I was in-house, we had a site that was working. It worked for a number of years. It was fine. But it was old school. It didn't look that pretty. There was a lot of things that just didn't feel updated. And we felt that, that UX, UI could be better. And so we took all of our in-house, team's time. We had developers working on this. We had designers working on this. We had our marketing team working on it. We had product folks working on it. A year and a half long project. So just think about the compounding time of that many team members doing this, right? And again, this is software, so that's why like some of the back end stuff takes longer. But let's even cut that down and say, okay, the equivalent in D2C ecom time, that's still like 4 to 5 months if you're having your in-house team do it, because there's other stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
They're doing work. So let's say 4 to 5 months. That might even be short, but 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
We spent a year and a half. How many? I don't know. That's probably in payroll.
Yeah.
$800
lot.
million.
Yeah.
Rolled it out. We were like, this thing's beautiful, has more functions, has more features. It's so much easier to use. There's all this stuff. Flopped. Completely flopped. Everything. Every single KPI that we had to go to our investors about. Whoop, bye.
Gone.
See ya. We ended up having to roll it back. So we rolled it back. Things normalized again.
And they normalized again overnight? They were like back to normal? Like,
no,
okay?
I mean, it still took maybe a week or two, right? But it wasn't like a many months thing that it took to normalize. That's what made it very clear, right?
You can switch back. I think the lesson I'm learning here is you can do all that. You can switch back. So test fast rather than test big.
Exactly that. And, you can roll back the theme. You can't roll back the time. So always think about opportunity cost. Like they can't ask everyone for their salaries back. You can't ask your agency for the money back.
You can ask.
You can ask. Yeah.
Depends on what question you'll get.
I'll wish you good luck on that one.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Well, I mean, that's the big learning in that is like how fast you're actually doing this, and that's where these, these tools that you suggested are actually really good. You can do frequent tests all the time, and then spend that time with the popcorn in front of the TV instead of watching that match or House of Dragons.
Exactly. I will put a
what about-
caveat to that though, because I think here's another bullshit CRO piece of wisdom that people have is volume of testing. Right, like CRO is very much a quality over quantity game, and I think a lot of people get very caught up in like, oh, I can run 7 tests with these guys, or I can run 2 tests with these guys. That's a fair question to ask, but you need to go deeper. Are you running 7 high quality tests that you're going to be able to learn from, and that actually get statistical significance and confidence that it's not going to just flop next month? Or can you run 2 that are based on a lot of data that are much more likely to win, and that will help you in other areas of your business, or it will help you in the future if you ever want to do a redesign?
I hear you.
What is the cost benefit of that? Think
It's
about
a learning.
that.
Everything
it's
needs
a
to be a
learning.
learning.
Yeah, don't.
That is back, but like repeatable, I suppose is the thing.
And you can waste a
It needs-
shitload of money doing a lot more tests, right? Because there's inherent risk in testing. There's one version's going to lose. Usually, like, I think the other thing that people don't realize is most tests lose or are inconclusive, right? It's something like in-house teams, it's like 25% of them get to a conclusive answer at all. And I think like 13 of them actually win. When you're working with an agency, that number is typically higher because that's what they do day in and day out. They have a larger data set they can compare against, that type of thing. But still, like that number for a good agency is like 27-30%. There's a lot of agencies that say, maybe 50%. If they can do that, that's sick. Like that's great. If they can't, it's very normal. So don't.
So not
don't
every
stress out.
test will prove like statistically significant. It's actually they have to test these things, but you won't always find a winner. It might be
Exactly.
like, oh,
There's a
that- like,
lot
you
of
know,
tests that run that are like, these things aren't
Wait,
really
what do you
that
do?
different. Then
What do
at
you
that
do?
point, if there's actually like no or very little revenue, profit, conversion rate, AOV lift, that is one of those times where you can actually say, do I like this better? Right? Like, is this design closer to what I'm going towards? Because if it's not making a negative impact, then great. It's making maybe an intangible impact that you can't measure, that you don't know from dollars.
Love that.
Okay.
Love that. That's a really good piece of advice because I mean I've come into this going, oh, every test I do will learn. I'll learn something new and do this. Nope. Like a good rate of that is like 50%. Sometimes you're gonna admit that's amazing.
Yeah. You'll learn. I would still say you learn something, but is it usable? Like if you learn that, hey, this redesign is exactly the same as the control, what you've learned is that, maybe it's a redesign of one section. What you've learned is that section is probably not a very big sticking point or persuasion point for the customers, right? So it's not worth spending the time going further on that. That's the learning.
Love that. So just a follow-up question to that then. So you talked about your horror story, but have you seen a glory story where you're like, this is amazing. We changed a couple things and these guys went from $500,000 to $3 million a year.
Man, there's a lot of things like that. And again, like what I want to say there is that it's not only dependent on the test, it's really dependent on the team surrounding it. Because you need to also be working with a strong media buying team or a strong internal team that can then say, oh, wow, we are this much more efficient. We are, we're able to convert this much more people, meaning that, oh, our CACs are this much lower. Now, how do we make the strategic move to be able to use our budgets properly? So there is a level of sophistication that, when you're hearing, oh, this brand went from this to this, either it's bullshit, they have a really strong and intelligent in-house or paid media partner, or if they're not at all giving credit to the fact that it was more than likely a lot of other things that had a perfect storm.
Time
that
of the
made it
year or
happen.
whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That being said, there's a couple that come to mind that they're more just annoying than anything else. Like they're such big wins, and you're like, what the hell? Like this is so frustrating. And the one of them that sticks out in my mind so much because it's probably one of the tests that has pissed me off the most is, and this is great for apparel brands. It was an apparel brand actually, and a lot of people do this where they have a free shipping threshold, right? Free shipping over $100. And so all over the site, they have it on their top banner, they have it on the PDPs, free shipping over $100. But the question that naturally any customer would have is, how much is shipping under $100? Right?
Yeah.
and if it's even possible to find, it's very hard to find. Either you have to start
Yeah.
checkout to get there, which pisses people off because I don't want to be, shocked here. I don't want to be bamboozled.
Yeah.
Just tell me. Or it's hidden in some like very deep FAQs. Oftentimes it's not in FAQs to be honest. For these guys, it was nowhere. You had to start checkout to get it.
Yeah.
Standard, really. I don't think anyone tells you that.
A lot of people don't. So very simple test that we just ran. We added just a little copy near the add to cart button that said standard shipping is $4.99.
Okay.
Conversion rate fucking skyrocketed. Sorry, AOV skyrocketed. All of this stuff just went way up because if you do think about user psychology, now they understand what they're working with. They have the full picture. Now they say, okay, would I rather spend $5 on shipping, or would I rather spend another $25 on another shirt? But hey, I get a shirt out of it, right? I'm not just paying for air. And cool, I don't feel bamboozled anymore. I feel like I know what to expect because I'm not going to buy $99 worth of stuff. So it's either do you want to have the customer at all, or do you only want people who will spend over $99? I think most people would say, yeah, I want the customer rather than just zero.
Okay.
Very
So you put in like how much they're actually saving, what the value, the dollar value is for each of the free shipping that you're going to be, or whatever the banner is.
Yeah, it's the best if they have like a standard rate, right? So like, hey, for standard shipping, anything under $99, it costs $5. I think these guys are actually like $7, but whatever it is, like $7 otherwise.
Nice.
If you have dynamic shipping, that's something that you can also just have your developer do, so like they can kind of put it in. But yeah, it's a very simple test. It really bothers me because it was such a huge winner, and it was just like one of those things that takes you 15 minutes to set up.
Oh man, it must have been tough to kind of go. Oh
yeah, because we did so many other things that were like so much bigger and like so much just like, I don't know. There's a lot more that went into it, and either the wins were not wins or they were much smaller. Like that one, I think it was like 20% increase in RPV, and you're like,
yeah, that's incredible. Well, Kanika, that's just amazing. Some of the stuff there is phenomenal. Like I'm so glad when I'm going notes. Like right, that last one is I'm immediately thinking of 3 clients that I'm going to be talking to next week. Going, try this.
Guys, we learned the things that you need to do with the CRO. We learned website redesigns. Is it bullshit? Is it not? That little snippet that you need to add after the free shipping that is going to do so much for you. It's been unbelievable. My name's Edwin.
I'm Tris.
I'm Kanika.
We'll see you on the next one.